Welcome to the Throwdown. We are a podcast celebrating the art and sport of professional wrestling. We feature live stream chats with wrestlers, promoters, and others involved in the industry. I'm your host, Matt, and tonight is episode 205. And our guest is Texas and South Carolina-based wrestler Eliyah Lopez. Eliyah has been wrestling for around 2 years and is, amazingly enough, only 14. So, without further delay, let's throw down.
It's showtime, folks!
Throwdown Nation, what is going on? We are live. It is a Monday. We're rolling on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. It is episode 205 of The Throwdown, where we celebrate the art and sport of professional wrestling with a strong focus on the indies. I'm your host, Matt, and today we are throwing down with a Texas and South Carolina-based wrestler, training and competing at least somewhat out of community wrestling in San Antonio. My friends, I give you Eliyah Lopez. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Man, I can't complain. I cannot complain at all. And for those of you watching live, let me direct your attention to the ticker that's running on the bottom of the screen. That contains all or at least most of Eliyah's social media accounts along with mine. So do us a favor, if you aren't a follower or subscriber, take the time and go to each of our platforms and do so. It definitely helps both of us. And just taking a glance over at the Instagram chat, we've already got a few people showing up. We've got Rachie Does Things and Breeze Wrestling Adventure hanging out with us tonight. So any questions or comments, just throw them in the chat and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and the most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
So I've been wrestling ever since I was 12. I am 14 now, so I've been wrestling for around 2 years, going on for 3.
Nice. So, as I mentioned, you've definitely got an association with community wrestling. Has that pretty much been where you've trained, or have you trained elsewhere as well?
For a little, I've trained at EBW, but my main trainer has always been Caius. He's guided me, and ever since he opened up community, that's always where I wanted to be.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. We had Caius on the show a while back, and I love that man to death. He is just incredible, and he's got such a heart for the business, and just a heart for growing young students such as yourself, man. You couldn't ask for a better guy to be doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
So, in the early stages of your wrestling training, what would you say was the most challenging part of professional wrestling for you to kind of wrap your mind and body around?
Well, I would just have to go with taking the bumps, just getting back up and down, falling and falling and falling. It hurt, because your mind, especially as you're going down, you don't want to fall down. Your mind's like, you're not used to falling just flat down. So it's a mind thing, but eventually you'll get the hang of it.
Oh, for sure. So did you come into wrestling with any kind of other athletic or martial arts background, anything like that?
The main thing I used to do before wrestling was football, and that's to say that was flag at the time, so nothing really physical.
Gotcha. So, I'm presuming, because this has been the typical answer that I've gotten when I've asked this question in the majority of these, but I'm presuming you've been at least a fan of wrestling the majority of your life. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah.
What would you say is the earliest wrestling-related memory? What's your earliest wrestling-related memory?
See, I wouldn't have to say more of a memory of watching it, but I think my biggest memory is as a kid. Me and my brother, Prince Pretty, we'd always used to set up 2 mattresses just in an open field, and we just go at it, just having fun.
Oh, so Prince Pretty is your brother?
Yes, Prince Pretty is my brother.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I did not make that connection. That makes a lot of sense now. So, what was the first live show you went to as a fan?
It was actually pretty recent. It was in San Antonio, Texas for WWE. I went to the Saturday Night's Main Event.
Oh, nice. So, I mean, obviously the physical side of this is extremely important. So tell us a bit about your gym routine, and in your mind, what would you say is the most crucial exercise or group of exercises for you to keep in ring shape?
It's, of course the gym is always going to be painful whether you like it or not, but one thing I will say is that the most important days that I always try to include, as much as I hate them, is going to be leg days, and that's the former wrestlers I've worked with before that's told me you need to work on leg days, especially since you're young, you do a bunch of crazy stuff, you need to make sure your legs are in good shape.
Gotcha. So, we talked a little bit about it before we went on the air, but I want to kind of circle back a little bit because, you just wrapped up a feud with Prince Pretty. So tell us about that, how it all went down, how it came to be. Like I said before we went on the air, man, I loved your heel turn on him. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a cool experience, just seeing us from 2 mattresses, in the living room to a wrestling ring in front of hundreds, definitely a really cool thing to do. It all started, it was more with him, he wouldn't let me be my own character, wouldn't let me be Eliyah Lopez. It was always just about Prince Pretty. And I, unfortunately, was always just Prince Pretty's little brother.
Yep.
And so
he was big brothering you.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I really did feel some type of way, and it got to me. So I thought if I had to make a name for myself, what better way to do it than just being by myself? So that's what I did. And I'm definitely out there now.
Nice. So away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests? Well, what do you like to do?
Well, I love gaming, NBA 2K. That's probably one of my favorite games right now. Yes, I can get mad at the game a little bit, but that's how it all happens. I'm currently in the works of getting back into football and basketball. Basketball is mainly my main sport ever since, wrestling, or before wrestling, I should say. Basketball has just always been something that I've just been passionate to do.
Gotcha. So, we're mostly a wrestling related show, but we do dabble a little bit into pop culture. So I'm always looking for recommendations. By any chance, are you watching or listening to anything cool right now?
This is my personal, preference, I guess you could say. A lot of people may not agree with me, but I'm a big believer in Christ. And so is what I do. I listen to a bunch of podcasts about, just Jesus, and those are really my thing. That's what I love doing on my free time, just listening to podcasts and just praising the Lord.
That's awesome, brother. I mean, that's one of the focuses of this show is, I love having wrestlers that have a belief system and have faith on the show, because I actually feel like, especially in the last couple of years, there really seems to be a revival of sorts happening in the wrestling business. Like you see people like Nathan Frazier, for instance. He has some really good Christian content on his Instagram, and I saw recently that Brian Cage got baptized. And he's starting to do some Christian content on his social medias as well. So yeah, it's exciting to see that stuff happening, because the business can be a very dark place, and the more people we've got in the business bringing the light, the better.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's why I'm a big believer, because I truly believe I couldn't have gone anywhere if it wasn't for the big man above.
Absolutely. So Another outside of wrestling question, and that is, what person inspires you the most and why?
Um, mm, this is completely outside of wrestling, but I am gonna have to say my mom. We've been through a really rough patch, with a bunch of personal stuff happening, but at the end of the day, she's always made sure that I had a roof over my head and dinner on the table. And so, for that, I know she struggled a lot, and so, I really hope to make it big, not just for me, but for her, just to repay her back for everything that she's done for me.
That's awesome. So I can tell you're something of a mama's boy.
Big mama's boy.
Nothing wrong with that, man. It's um, love them while you got them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yep. So, are you originally from Texas?
Yes, I'm from San Antonio.
So, what was your favorite thing about San Antonio, and what is your favorite thing about South Carolina?
So my favorite thing about San Antonio is that just that's where family is. I just grew up there. I love Six Flags. I love SeaWorld, and it has it all there. So I love going with my family. I love spending time with my family. So that's just where family is. So that's what I love about Texas. For South Carolina, it's definitely a big change, but I really do like how chill it is over here. Like everybody's really to themselves. I'm in a very small city, so from where I am now, everybody knows each other. I walk into a store, everybody's like, "Hey, what's up, dude? What you doing?" We're the new people in town, so it's definitely a little awkward, but I like how everybody has a connection here.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to be said for small town living. Because like you said, everybody knows everybody, and everybody kind of takes care of everybody. But at the same time, everybody is also in everybody else's business. So yeah, it's got its good and its bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to get back out to Texas and see some things now that I'm old enough to appreciate them. I left Texas when I was 6, and I haven't been back. And I need to get out there and see some things that I remember and see if I remember them accurately. So they say that the best wrestling personas are usually kind of yourself turned up to 11. So kind of tell us about in-ring Eliyah Lopez and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
Well, with Eliyah, I'm a real cocky kid. I love it. I just love having everything handed to me, and I'll win no matter what I have to do. But Xavier, my shoot name, I am really, at least I would like to believe that I'm really kind. I work for my stuff. I really don't like stuff getting handed to me. I really just love working for everything. But especially with me being as a heel, everywhere I go, I realize I have to switch it. I kind of have to just flip it up. But I will say though, there is still a lot of me, and that's what I love about it. I love not playing a character and just going out there and being myself.
Gotcha. So I noticed a little bit in your heel turn that you did. What is up with your brother's little dance? What is that? I mean, it's cool, but I was just like, what is that? What's he doing?
And you see that, and that's shout out to Prince Pretty because that's all him. But that's what we call the her.
You call it a what?
The her, Her.
The her.
He'll just, and I love it. Honestly, it's so catchy, and I just love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I had never seen that before. That's as far as I know, that's entirely original. And that's, that is very, very cool. So anyway, I just had to bring that up because I was like, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts?
Oh, it was horrible. No, my first match was at EBW, Elite Breakout Wrestling. It was against the owner, Hitman, and it was a very interesting match. It was a really big crowd, so very scary for my first time. Untelevised, of course. I did go up with the win, of course, but I look back at that match a lot, and then I look at my most recent ones and just see how far and I've grown, and just ring work, getting the crowd, just everything about it, and so it's definitely. I can say I've definitely improved from where I've been, but I'm also far away from where I want to be.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So looking over at the Instagram chat, we're continuing to get people filtering in. We've got Valerie D. Lopez, Jen Buenteo, and the passionate one himself, Jonathan Life, is hanging out with us. He's a good dude. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if you know him.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So we've heard about the first one. Now, if you can narrow it down, tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
I think my favorite match is gonna have to be against my brother, Prince Pretty. You know, just everything went so well in that match.
Nice. Tell us a bit about it.
You know, I loved it because there was just so much story to it. And, you know, I think a lot of the fans were expecting just, you know, oh, it's two high flyers. They're going to do a bunch of flips and flips and flips. But me and Pretty, you know, back in the back, we realized that and we're like, let's be technical with it. You know, let's get real technical. And so we watched a bunch. We watched Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. Yeah. We watched them.
Oh, yeah.
Great match, you know, so definitely, you know, I'd recommend on your free time, definitely go watch it, you know, really good one, you know.
For sure.
You know, and we definitely, at least myself, I definitely do take inspiration from Dominic Mysterio. So I definitely over a bunch of him, you know, his heel work, just everything that he does. And, you know, we brought that to life pretty much.
Very cool. Very cool. So, you know, it sounds like in your relatively short career, you've had some experience doing both. So do you have a preference between working heel or baby?
I love working heel. I love it. You know, like, I don't know what it is, but just making the crowd not like me, it's really funny to me. And it sometimes I really try not to break character because it's hilarious. Just all the little insults they'll throw at you. I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, as a fan, I have always gravitated more to the heels because I find that typically the heels are more compelling characters because usually there's a reason why they are the way they are. They're not being an asshole just to be an asshole. There's usually a reason and a backstory, and I find the why to be very compelling with the heels. So,
Yeah.
So you know you've been doing this long enough that I'm sure you've developed at least a few of these. So what would you say is your biggest wrestling related pet peeve?
You know, and I hate to be like this, but just people who can't listen, like just in the ring more, just, you know, like, and I'm not going to say any names, but there is a couple where I've had to call a match and I'll just be like, all right, do this. I'll hold them for a little. All right, do this. And they'll look at me and they're like, huh? And I'll be like, all right. And then I'll turn them into a different move. And then I'll say it again. All right, do this. And eventually it just takes a couple just to, you know, finally get it through their head. That's all.
Gotcha. So this has actually become one of my favorite questions for the simple reason that doing this, and I've done this question in pretty much every episode, and it's been almost a 50-50 split. And everybody has their unique reasons for choosing one or the other. So if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
That is a really hard question.
Yeah.
I believe I would have to go with being great in the ring. And I only say that because if you're great on the mic, but can't back up your talk, what's the point? You know, at least maybe I can't speak, but if I can prove it in the ring, it says more, you know?
Got you. So, you know, you may or may not have had any of this, but I'll ask this question anyway. Have you had any unusual or funny encounters with fans?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear the story.
So I was at Walmart with Pretty, and it was
Okay.
actually after me and his match.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were just talking about it, and a fan, I want to say maybe 12, so you should have known a little better, ran up, put me in a chokehold, and he was like, yeah, I know.
Wow.
And he was like, don't do that to Prince Pretty. I got you, Prince Pretty. I got you, Prince Pretty. And his mom came running over, pulling him off. Let him go. And Prince Pretty just looked at me, which I find really disrespectful. Because how are you not just going to help me? Like,
Yeah.
eventually, his mom got him off, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's all right. Don't worry about it. It's understandable. Things happen.
Wow. Interesting.
So definitely a weird experience, but
So what's the age difference between you and Pretty?
I want to say a 5 year difference.
So I guess he's 19 and you're 14?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, what is your all-time favorite match as a fan? Do you have one match or a couple of matches in particular that really spoke to you that just are kind of near and dear to your heart?
And this one will always, just as me, and maybe a lot of people may not agree, but definitely the Shield versus Evolution was one of just the greatest, like just all of their matches in total, in my opinion, just was one of the greatest things. And especially what happened going on, after there's always a plan B. I love the whole story, and I just think everything was great. Another match I could say was the one I've looked over a lot is going to be, Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart in the Iron Man match.
Mm-hmm.
That one was just amazing storytelling and everything.
Oh yeah. And man, the Shield, what a grouping of talent that was. I mean, and what each of those guys have gone on to since the Shield. Rollins, Roman, and Mox. I mean, you really. That was just a crazy talented trio.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Just everything they've done. Just in their careers. Roman main evented or going on to main event 11 WrestleManias. Seth Rollins being one of the best in the ring, in my opinion, and Mox at one point being the face of AEW. It definitely all says a lot.
Oh, for sure. So piggybacking on to the previous question, do you have an all-time favorite promo as a fan?
A little heartbreaking. But I believe my favorite promo was with Roman Reigns, and it sounds a little because he wasn't that good as the big dog, but it was the famous. My real name is Joe.
Oh yeah.
See, you already know. As a wrestling fan, you just have to know that promo.
Yeah, man. Where things get real is when the magic happens. That was a very unfortunate circumstance, but it was heartfelt. And yeah.
No, that was the first time where I felt genuine, like I cried over that just promo. Just like I was like, wow.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So, and this is one of these questions that can literally change almost day to day, hour to hour, week to week. But at this moment, in your opinion, yourself excluded, who are the best male and best female wrestlers in the world? Well, who's the best man and who's the best woman?
Are we going just like present right now, like non-injured, or can I go injured as well?
You could go injured. Okay,
then personally, I'm going to have to say, I guess that question didn't really matter. I guess I'm going to say MJF. I love what he's doing right now. He's honestly the face of AEW right now as the male.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I just love what he's doing and everything. For female, this one's pretty easy. I'm going to have to go with Io Sky. I believe she will be one of the greatest female wrestlers after she's done and hangs up the boots.
Yep. I've mentioned this about MJF. Something I really respect about him is, when he came in as one of the AEW originals, basically, the guy was just otherworldly on the mic. And I mean, he was a decent worker, but he has put in the work these last few years to where his in-ring is as good as his mic. And so he took the time and put in the work to fill in the holes in his game. And I mean, I would put him up against anybody at this point. I mean,
how far he's developed, how good his mic work is, how good his in-ring work is. Personally, that's a dream match for me. I'd love to just work him, just to get advice from him, just to do anything, if it's a seminar, a match, just, promo battle, which I know I'd lose. I'd lose.
But it would be fun. I mean,
I love his work. That's all.
Oh, for sure. So, that's really kind of a great segue into the next question, and that is, and this can be past or present, who would be a dream opponent? Who would you love to have the opportunity to share a ring with?
Now this one is a little iffy because I'm still well. I have two, I should say. These two, I go back and forth every day. So one is gonna be Gunther. I love the chops. I love everything he does. I know just the power bomb he does. I could sell it amazingly. It. Don't get me wrong. I probably would be half alive after the match, but I'd love to work him one day. Just an amazing talent after all. I love what he's doing, especially as a heel. Everybody hates him right now, but
Yeah.
I see what he's doing, and I just love it.
Oh yeah, and you can tell he's having the time of his life healing it up too. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yep. Yeah, that's one. The second one I would say is none other than Javon Evans. I love it. I just love what he's doing. I love all the crazy spots he's doing. And, sometimes I really do get a little worried that he will get hurt, but he hasn't got hurt yet. And so just definitely something he knows how to protect himself. And that's really good. So that's another dream match I'd love to have.
I've talked to some people who met him and kind of knew him when he was working the indies, and say that he is just an amazing human being too, just a really good kid. And it's and so hearing that kind of makes you like the guy even more. That I mean, my wife and I were watching Elimination Chamber the other night, and we were, because he got started wrestling when he was around 13, and it's just interesting to think, if you told him when he was getting started in 8 years you're going to be main eventing a PLE, he'd have probably been like, what?
Yeah, very true.
But I mean, hard work pays off, and I think that. So I mean, I can tell already from just the little bit that we've talked that you have an incredible work ethic.
Thank you.
And that's going to take you far.
Thank you.
So I know that when you're wrestling and working various people, you find certain people that you have amazing in-ring chemistry with. And you just kind of know when you're working that person, it's going to be magic, it's going to be a banger. Do you have such a person? I mean, aside from your brother, obviously, but do you, aside from Pretty, do you have another person that when you're working them, it's going to be just amazing?
I have two. One is Caius. I just love the big man versus little man story, and I know he's a great worker. I know he won't hold back on me, which sucks, but that's wrestling for me. So I love working with him though. He's a great worker. I wish him all the best, honestly, and I thank him for everything that he's done in my career. The second one is gonna be Cesar. He's a Laredo worker. He lives in Laredo, and he's around my age. I'd say he's amazing, honestly. Like all props to him. During my first couple matches with him, he definitely carried them. But they were really good matches, and I praise him for that. He's an amazing worker, so really shout out to him.
Absolutely. So, what is your favorite move? What is something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that scares you, or a move that you won't do, or you would at least rather not do, and that can be giving or receiving?
Yeah, so my favorite move to do is, I believe, my finisher. I just love the hidden blade. I love it. It's just the
Will Ospreay. Yeah.
The impact that it makes. I love it. For the move that I prefer not to take is the chops. I'm very small, and a lot of these people in the industry, they're bigger than me, and so they don't hold back. Like Caius, I wrestled Caius. His chops hurt. I've wrestled Jaden Black before. He's probably one of the his chops, never again, man. Never again. Just a bunch of different people that I've worked, and those chops they're painful. They're really, really painful.
No doubt. Looking at some of these people, in a match that is chop heavy, at the end of the match, sometimes their chest just looks like raw hamburger. Yep. And I mean, that's just wow.
Yeah.
That's My hat's off to you. And you know, it's funny when I was of the age that I could have considered going into the business. You know, it was still very much the land of the giants. And but you know, it's really done my heart good watching the business evolve over the years to where smaller, really athletic guys can really make a go of it in the business. And you know, I've enjoyed seeing like the Rey Mysterios
Yeah.
and the Adam Coles and the Bryan Danielsons. You know, the smaller, really athletic, really technical guys get out there and tear the house down. You know, I feel like I'm living vicariously through the small guys.
Oh yeah,
So
you know that's and one thing I will say is back to Cesar, you know his chops. I'll be honest, I really underestimated him. He was my size. I know my chops don't hurt that bad. Man, whenever I got out there and faced him, my chest was just all red. And whenever we got backstage, I was like, man, you're strong for your age. Like I'll give it to you. Like he hits like a grown man. I could say that he lays it all in. So really, props to him.
wow. So you know, you're a very young guy, so this may not really apply that much. But I'll go ahead and ask, what hurts right now? Is anything hurting or bothering you right now?
My neck is killing me. You know, but I think it's just over. You know, over the times because just how many times I've been training. You know, I've just been trying to put in the work, and so I think eventually it's coming back to me, which sucks because I'm still young into my career. But let's hope I could get it fixed better. You know, now than later.
Absolutely. So, you know, in the short time you've been doing this, what is the worst bump you have taken?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I believe. Oh, okay. So I had a spot where I want to say there was at least around 6 people on the outside, and I was supposed to do a hurricanrana to a bigger dude where he catches me instead, throws me on the outside on top of all 6 man. But unfortunately, they did not catch me, and it was just full wood on the ground. So I just took a bump on full wood, getting power bombed from in the ring to the out. So that hurt.
No doubt, no doubt. So, kind of a hot take question. What are your thoughts coming out of Elimination Chamber? Did the right people win?
I and you know, yes, everybody won, but one thing I will say is that I am really disappointed that Javon Evans didn't do more in the match. You know, I expected more.
You know, I do feel like you know, even though he was the first to get eliminated, I do feel like he came out of the match looking like $1,000,000. Though I mean, you know, he got to get his stuff in.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But you know, I expected, you know, the climbing on top of the cage, doing like the moonsault off of it. But that's on me for getting my hopes too much.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, I was pleased that Randy won.
Yes.
I mean, you know, and you know, I was also pleased that Rhea won because you know, I think she can probably carry Jade Cargill to a pretty good match.
Oh yeah.
I mean, personal opinion, I don't think Jade Cargill is ready for the spot they've got her in. You know, I think she needs a lot more reps.
You're right.
She's got the potential to be really good, but you know, I used to jokingly refer to Jade Cargill as AEW Goldberg because you know they basically sort of put her in the Goldberg position where she would just go out and squash people and never really have a long match and get dragged into deep water, you know. So, you know, lengthy matches, I feel like she doesn't really, still at this point, doesn't really know what to do. But,
Yeah, you know,
that's just my opinion.
no, I completely agree with you on that. But also, I feel like Rhea was definitely perfect. She's really good in the ring. You know, I'll give it to her.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
you know, just with how muscular they both are, it's just like on paper, it's a really good match.
Yeah, yeah. You know, a match that I am dying to see down the road, and I'm sure it's just a matter of time before it happens. But I want to see Rhea Ripley and Jordan Grace. I mean, I think those two will be awesome together.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
I love it.
so, before we get off the subject of Elimination Chamber, what did you think about the debut and the reaction to Danhausen?
Man. All right. I'm gonna try to keep it short because I have a lot I could say about him right now. Great worker, great. I loved everything he's done on the Indies and AEW, but I don't feel like he's the type of character that deserves a 3-week build. Especially I was really hyped for the crate, and it's no offense to him, but to see him coming out, I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, knowing all of that, I can understand why he got booed. At the same time, I felt a little bad for him because, those were the circumstances he was put into. I don't think he necessarily asked to be the guy in the crate, but,
Yeah,
that
no, I
was,
see what
was
you mean.
that was what they decided to do with him. I was actually hoping that it was going to be Killer Cross.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really hoping they bring him back and finally do him right. I mean, because he was awesome in NXT,
He really
but
was.
they just can't seem to get him right on the main roster.
Yeah,
And
I'm
and
all,
I don't get it. I mean,
yeah, he was amazing in NXT, but that's how a lot of people were. Like the same thing with Samoa Joe. I loved what he did in NXT, but then whenever he came to the main roster, I was expecting him to be big. Like that big dude that just nobody can defeat. Won championship after championship. I had really high hopes for him.
yeah, um, another guy main roster just never could quite figure out was Dijak, Donovan Dijakovic. I mean,
Cute.
he was another great talent that they just couldn't seem to figure out what to do with him.
Yeah, I know. Same thing with Keith
But
Lee as well.
yeah, I hope that whatever health issues Keith Lee's got going on, I hope he finally can get to the bottom of all that and get back out there. Because man, that guy is just crazily talented.
Yeah.
I still remember the spot with him pouncing Adam Cole into the third row. I mean, that was just that's probably in my top 10 moments. just watching him just yeet Adam Cole.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling, specifically indie wrestling?
I will say it's very helpful for it. And I only say that because, whenever there wasn't social media, it was all flyers and not the whole world can see just one flyer. With social media, I post this podcast on there. Thousands of people can see it, from all over the world and just tune in to watch us talking. So that's why I genuinely think social media is a big influence on especially indie wrestling because not a lot of people know about indie wrestlers. Like for example, me myself, I only thought there was WWE and AEW at a time until I found out there's this kind of company, and then I found out there's TNA, and then eventually I got to the indie wrestling, and that's whenever I decided why not I give it a shot. I thought it'd be kind of cool for me to just try it out, and here I am.
Nice, nice. So, you're still obviously a very young guy, but if you could give any advice, knowing everything you know at the ripe old age of 14, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Take it slow. That's one thing I've always heard, especially, after every single match, it's take it slow. After every match, it's always been you went too fast. I need you to take it slow. So just bring it down, just relax. I've always gotten the ring. I've been way too excited. I've been going to spot to spot to spot, and I realized, no, let's slow it down. Let's make sure the crowd hates me or, the crowd loves me. Let's just make sure that this match is going to mean something after we finish.
Absolutely. And there is a saying in the special operations community in the military, and the saying is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And there's a lot of wisdom you can take from that saying in virtually any facet of life.
Yeah.
Slow down, let it breathe. Take it all in and think about it. And getting in a hurry, you're generally never going to end up in a good situation.
Oh yeah,
So,
I realized that, during my career, it's been a lot of, I've been rushing, because I've been doing the spot. It's been a whole spot fest, but I realized that's why I wasn't getting over. That's why, after every time, I took one bump at the baby face and that was it. And I'd get right back up. I didn't have time to sell it and make the crowd be like, oh, all right, come on, let's get back up, get back up. I never got that, as a baby face. So as a heel, I always make sure, no matter what I do, the baby face needs to look good. And I know it's my job to make him look good and his job to make me look good. So we work together and we do great. And I know.
awesome. So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
Yes. Show day, I try not to eat as much, and if I do, it's like a protein bar, just something very light. I can't eat nothing too big. Also, right before I go out that curtain, I always pray. I pray. My favorite prayer is just I pray that you keep us safe and that you help me deliver this match and just we have a good match overall. Amen. That's it. Just something quick and simple. Just to get my mind at ease. That's all.
Awesome. So, give us a quick rundown of your gear bag. Do you carry anything unique or unusual in your gear, and what all do you carry in your bag?
Of course, I carry my tights, my wrestling tights. I need those, of course. I carry my boots that my brother Prince Pretty actually got me. So shout out to him again. I got my knee pads. Those were pretty pricey, but definitely needed them. Something a little unusual I have is, and I don't. I swear, a lot of people think I eat from it, which I don't. But I have just a whole thing of gum, just watermelon flavored gum, and it's not for me to eat, but it's more just for my bag to smell good, just to make sure that I don't open it and it stinks up the whole locker room.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, during the time that you've been wrestling, have you developed a favorite venue? Is there a venue that you just love to wrestle in because it's near and dear to your heart, or are they all kind of the same to you?
Um, I mean, well, personally, I love any venue that's inside with AC. I just prefer it. It's better for me. But I will say, the venue for Poteet, Texas, from the Familia, that's where it has a place in my heart because that's where I started. I've just grown from there. A lot of people from Poteet, they've just seen how I've grown and how I progressed in my career. And so, for that, it's not more the venue, but it's more the people there. I'm really thankful for that.
Gotcha. So, something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And our previous guest was a Florida-based wrestler, a guy based in Central Florida, wrestles out of the House of Champions in Orlando, a guy named Baracco. And the question that he posed is, when are you coming to the House of Champions to fight him?
Let's hope very soon. I'm really hoping to get my name out there, so let's hope very, very soon.
So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question you would like to ask the next guest?
What's the main goal for your career? I think that's one thing a lot of people don't really talk about is just what's the main goal. Everybody's writing, what's about right now, but what's in your future? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, pretty much?
Gotcha. How would you answer that?
Well, see, that's why it's a very hard question for myself. I would like to see myself in 10 years, going on to do bigger and better things, AEW, TNA, WWE, but the truth is, I don't know. So I couldn't personally give you a reasonable answer, but what I would like to say is I'd love to be in WWE.
Gotcha. So, during his farewell tour, John Cena kept talking about the concept of leaving wrestling better than he found it. And I love that. The idea of making a point of really trying to make things better. So I've adopted that as one of the questions in my repertoire. What are you doing to try to make wrestling better than it was when you entered the business?
I'm young, so my main focus is the younger generation. I really love just seeing them take inspiration from me. And so that's one thing I always say, no matter how young you are. I started doing it at 12 and I'm 14 now, and just I know I'm gonna go and do bigger and better things. At least I hope so. So, I always tell anybody, if you ever plan on doing anything with your life, anything, especially with wrestling, pursue your dreams, because I did mine, and I promise you're gonna love it.
Absolutely. So we're getting toward the end of things now. So it sounds like you're sort of your career is at least somewhat on hold right now. But do you have any upcoming shows or anything that you'd like to give some hype to?
Not 100% official, but I got a opportunity in September to go wrestle out there in Florida. So, it's something big coming up. I've never wrestled in Florida before. Nothing's, set in stone, but it's definitely something that I like to just, keep my mind on and, just focus on for now.
Gotcha. Well, as far as what we've got coming up on the Throwdown, this Thursday, the 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern, we've got episode 207, and our guest is going to be a guy who is actually affiliated with One Division Pro, and he actually has a match coming up later this month out in California at Chris Page's show Good Vibrations. And he is actually going to be wrestling the One Division Pro heavyweight champion Rochi Roach out there, and I'm actually really interested to talk to this guy, Phineas' son. He has a really unique persona, sort of a combination of a Viking and a cult leader. So it's going to definitely be an interesting conversation that I'm really looking forward to, and we've actually got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm actually booked now. I'm starting to take bookings into April at this point, so we're booked up about a month out at this point. And I'm doing usually 2 to 3 of these a week. I mean, it's a side venture. I would love if someday I could be doing this full time, but for now it's just it's a labor of love and something I absolutely just really enjoy doing. Right. But before we wrap all of this up, do you have any final words for the audience?
Just again, if you have a dream, I really do say just pursue it. You never know how far it can get you. That's all.
Absolutely. And, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, definitely do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until Thursday night with Phineas' son, be good to each other. Love each other, and let's keep throwing down.
Goodbye, and good night, bang.
Thanks for listening to episode 205 of The Throwdown. Eliyah and I had a great time together, and I especially enjoyed talking with him about our thoughts about Elimination Chamber and what may be ahead on the road to WrestleMania. As for what's coming, this Thursday, March 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be live with episode 207 with our guest from out of Norse legend, Phineas' son. Next Monday, March 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be live with episode 208 with our guest, North Carolina-based St. Julius. Be sure to make plans to join us live on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch and interact. If you can't make it live, the videos will be available on those platforms and the podcast will be available within a few days afterward. As always, if you like what we have going here, spread the word, follow me on my socials, leave comments, and maybe even drop us a review. Any or all of that will help us to continue to grow. Have a great rest of the week, and keep throwing down.